In our Photoshop tutorials this week, we are going to begin to explore some advanced Photoshop techniques. And specifically, we are going to explore the use of layers in Photoshop. One of the great things about Photoshop is that we can place adjustments on a photo actually on top of the original photograph. So if you think of a picture and you look at it sideways, kind of like a sliced view of a photograph, a layer would almost be kind of like a club sandwich where we have these different layers of different things sitting on top of the original photograph. So let's look at Photoshop and let's look at your layers specifically and look at how you get layers in Photoshop. So if you go under Window and then go down to Layers, you'll see a window comes up that looks like this. I'm just going to drag that over here. So this is your Layers window. You're going to need that when working with layers. And then you also want the Adjustments window, which look like that. If you're opening up Photoshop and you see these already appearing on your desktop, then you obviously don't have to go to the window to get them. They'll be there right away. So we're going to work with these two panels primarily to begin with. And what we are going to do in this photograph is use these adjustments to selectively make this area of the photograph brighter while maintaining the same exposure in this area. So in other words, our exposure or our photo looks good right here, but in this lower left-hand corner, it's a little bit on the dark side. So we're going to lighten that up without touching the area of the photograph that looks good. Our first step in doing this is to create a new adjustment layer. So you guys are all used to working with adjustment layers and adjustments, which you typically access by going to Image, Adjustments, Levels. So as of this tutorial, I don't want you to make levels adjustments in that manner anymore. That is a very basic way of doing it, and it's actually a destructive way. In other words, you're altering the original pixels in the photograph. We are going to make an adjustment to this photograph using a levels adjustment, but we're going to apply it as a layer that sits upon that original photograph. So if we go down to this adjustment panel or this adjustment window and select the icon for the histogram, and if you slide your mouse over it, you'll see that it says inserts a new adjustment layer. So I'm going to click on that once, and you can see we get the familiar histogram coming up that looks very much, in fact, exactly like the histogram that you saw when you did Image, Adjustments, Levels. But the one key is here, if you look on our Layers palette up here, we actually have now a second layer that has been placed on top of that original, what is known as background layer. And watch, once I go ahead and make an adjustment in this Levels panel, it adjusts this whole photograph here. So we can play around with this Levels panel, make it darker, make it lighter, however you want. For this exercise, our goal is to lighten up these vegetables in the lower left-hand corner. So we're going to make this adjustment so that the vegetables look a little bit brighter. And I'm doing that by moving my middle, what's called the middle gray slider, and the right bright white slider.